from the light of the sun.
A nasty burn now, isn't that fun?
Swim in the ocean, run on the beach,
Drown in the surf and blood like a leech.
we have no time for merrymaking. Chop off the head for badness sake, sever a limb, batter and bake. Nasty spells of bubonic night, come close and see what's hidden from sight. Something festering in my bed bugs dance.
Hey everybody, happy October. Happy oversaturation of pumpkin flavored everything, but more importantly, welcome to my 2021 Halloween special. Just like last year, I'm going to be going through 7 movies per video, one for every day of the week, and offer my honest opinion in a kinda, sorta, not really, rapid fire style. I'm kind of excited to be doing this, so let's just get started. Happy Halloween month, everyone. Welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk scary movies.
Halloween, I want to die on Halloween.
Under the bridge of goblin weights, she never sleeps or hesitates.
This shouldn't need an introduction, but here I go anyway. Brad Dourif is Charles Lee Ray, aka Chucky. He's nearly killed by a cop, but manages to transfer his soul into a popular children's toy, a good guy doll. This doll is eventually sold to this woman, who gives it to her young, annoying son, and oh, how things go so horribly wrong.
You mean I have to live out the rest of my life in this body? No fucking way! You got me into this, you get me out.
I've never seen it before. Well, it's closer to say that I've never personally sat down to watch the entire thing. I've seen like bits and pieces on my own, and I've seen other reviewers on YouTube, well, talk about it, so I know what happens. Also, I have a former coworker who loves the Chucky franchise, so she kind of inspired this watch as well as a few other movies that I am planning to watch later on in the month. But as for this, yeah, I get why it's popular. I understand where that comes from, but I'm not exactly on board the hype train. There's a ton that I can appreciate, especially when it comes to the classic 80s slasher horror genre. Chucky, much like Freddy Krueger, stands out from the likes of Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers because he has a real personality to him. The various ways they brought him to life via animatronics, puppetry, and even actors, it's a respectable piece of spooky 80s cinema. Even the trope of the main character being seen as crazy by everyone makes much more sense here because it's a 6-year-old kid. Of course no one would believe that his doll killed anyone. And of course, because he's a lonely kid, he'd be susceptible to listening to Chucky when he tells him to do stuff. And the climax, not gonna lie, is a damn cool setup.
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut!
However, for every compliment that I can dish out for this movie, there's kind of an interwoven negative that goes with it. As memorable as Chucky is in no small part to the lovably insane Brad Dourif, I feel like this performance is almost too campy. Like, this movie is unintentionally drifting into comedy territory, but I know that this is supposed to offer legit chills. It's really hard to accomplish that when your murder doll has a colorful set of clothes and is hobbling around, well, like he's being controlled like a puppet. It's no wonder this franchise opted to go the more comedic route later on, and I'll make a point to see those next year. But this movie had an unbalanced tone for me. As much as you feel for Andy, the problem is young Alex Vincent's line deliveries. His voice is obnoxious. Ironic how he's actually not that bad in either the Curse or Cult of Chucky movies, which, yes, I did see both. I'm not about to tell the diehard fans that they're wrong. Lord knows if I kick that hornet's nest, I am not living to tell the tale. But for my personal taste, I just can't get into it like everyone else does. I feel like I'll enjoy this franchise more when I get around to when the franchise becomes self-aware and kind of meta. But as for this one, it's just not my cup of tea. My honest rating for Child's Play, a 3 out of 5.
Ugly doll.
Fuck you.
Follow the path this sleepless night. Feels so good to have a bad fright.
Okay, rapid fire on the intro. Dario Argento, a niche but popular Italian filmmaker. He made the original Suspiria. I thought it was just okay, though weirdly enough, I adore the remake. OG Suspiria is part of a trilogy, the Three Mothers trilogy. I did see the follow-up to Suspiria, Inferno. I could not get into it. Got it? Good. Onward. The breathtakingly attractive Asia Argento finds herself the target of a cult of witches. These witches are gathering because the last of the super witches, the Mother of Tears, is causing the people of Rome to go violent and crazy.
What, you don't think there are forces out there we don't understand?
Not really, no. You and I are scientists. We're supposed to believe in what we see, what we touch.
It's weirdly my favorite of this trilogy for very select reasons. But make no mistake, this is far and away the worst one. One of the reasons I can't hate this movie is the star, Asia Argento. Ever since XXX in 2002, I can't get over how ridiculously gorgeous she is. Not that I see her work all that often. In fact, I've only seen 2 of her movies my entire life prior to this. But she left an impact on my adolescent brain. Also, compared to all the Mothers movies, this has the story that I can most easily follow. And it's the most memorable, for better or worse. I mean, the acting, man, holy crap, it's so hammy and over the top. For as many thrills and chills I know this is trying to go for, I had more shits and giggles. The violence is also crazy over the top, and I have to somewhat admire Dario. The man does not give the slightest shit about what's portrayed on screen. Again, for better or worse.
I heard a voice in my head telling me to go. And then, bam, the door slammed open.
Positives include grotesque violence and Asia being disgustingly beautiful. Quality cinema, obviously. But seriously, like I said, this is the worst of the Mothers movies. In fact, it's a downright shit movie. The script is atrocious. 1 second, Sarah is saying that she heard a voice in her head and is afraid of being seen as crazy, but then criticizes her boyfriend for believing in the supernatural literally a couple minutes later. It's maddening. Suddenly, Sarah develops magical superpowers, the kind that are super useless. Despite my praises for the violence, it can reach exploitative levels. There are so many brutally murdered kids in this thing. Holy f***, man! The story does kind of lose itself around the 3rd act, and how this all gets resolved might as well be a joke. And I'm not convinced it isn't. Also, if you are familiar with the other movies, this has no distinct style to it. The others were surreal fever dreams. While annoyingly colored and the stories don't always make sense or aren't fully comprehensible, they did stand out. This one is just another messed up and terrible horror flick. If you haven't seen the other Mothers movies, check out Suspiria first. If you like that one, then go ahead and see the others. If you didn't like it, this one's not going to change your mind. It's not good. But anything with Asia in it is an automatic win in my book, no matter the quality. As well as the hammy-ass acting that is just so bad you can't just not laugh at it. But no, not recommended. My honest rating for Mother of Tears, a 3 out of 5.
What?
Waiting down the hall. Watch your step, you'll have a great fall. I know a sight that will make you scream.
This squirrely guy is a mama's boy. After going on his first date and probably for the first time in his life with this super cute Spanish girl, his mom is attacked by this freaky little monster from King Kong's island and turns into a "Oh Jesus God, what the hell!" More people are killed and turned into "Oh Jesus God, what the hells," while squirrely guy tries to hide this from everyone he knows.
Your mother ate my dog!
Not all of it.
All I knew about this was that it was considered to be among the grossest horror films ever made. And also, it's Peter Jackson almost 10 years before Lord of the Rings. Dear sweet Jesus, what a transition. This had to have been a huge surprise for those who actually knew his name before Lord of the Rings. Or honestly, anyone after. This was very different. As for the gross out stuff, oh, this movie does not hold back, and I literally cannot think of another that is this relentless. I frequently had to look away because that's how extreme it is. I'm usually pretty good with violence, provided it's not lingered on for too long just for shock value. But that's not the extent of what is done here. And I'm not even entirely sure I'd be able to properly describe it. As to whether or not it's a bad thing, it's mostly a bad thing. While I can appreciate that it's all practical effects, something that the horror genre has seemingly been trying to steer away from in lieu of CGI, the vast amounts of blood and gore means very little to me if there isn't a good story or good characters to carry me through it. Look, Dead Alive isn't about to have some deep thought-provoking message. That's not what I mean. The entire movie happened because Lionel kept screwing up and faced no consequences by the end of it. He just kept making stupid decision after stupid decision, and at some point I just wanted it to be over and done. And I was kind of hoping that he'd die at some point. As a result of his inhuman stupidity, the comedy didn't always land, being obvious setups for comedy scenes, but it's so incredibly forced that I could only get into it if I saw it as a standalone scene, not part of a whole hour and 30-minute movie.
I don't know what sort of kinky shit you're into, but I want those things buried.
I'm trying to come up with some positives so you horror enthusiasts can get off my ass. I mentioned the practical effects, still a positive. There is an abundance of creativity ranging from how people and zombies die to the more wild crap later on. Gotta say, would not have thought of any of that. I can't say that the comedy always landed, but there were a few times that got a nice chuckle out of me.
I kick ass for the Lord!
Yeah, that's kind of all I got. Look, if you like your gross out festival of hyper gore, then if you've never seen this before, I imagine you're in for a hell of a treat. But if you're anything like me and you actually wanted some decent comedy out of this, this isn't going to do it for you. But as someone who would have wanted this to be a little funnier or at least a little more likable, this didn't appeal to me too much. I won't say that I got nothing out of this. I did. Something. And that's kind of all I got. My honest rating for Dead Alive, a week 3 out of 5. Oh, fade out already. Nasty.
Oftentimes we're better off dead when we wake the skirt turns red.
Jeff Goldblum is a scientist who tells ace journalist Gina Davis that he invented teleportation. After bumping some uglies, Jeff tests it on himself, unknowingly getting teleported with a common housefly, and slowly turns into a— oh, Jesus Christ, what the hell? Never seen this before, which upsets me because I love Jeff Goldblum. And now, I'm convinced that anyone who makes fun of him is objectively wrong because this movie proves to me that he is a legit good actor. Almost from the get-go, the acting does the writing justice. Goldblum perfectly balances egotistical with genuine passion. Socially awkward, but charming. Likeable, but off his rocker. And Davis is ambitious, but compassionate. Sweet-natured, but no pushover. The way the two bounce off of each other is adorable and could have been a competent romance film by itself. But as the story progresses, Goldblum really shines as his character develops. Going from a hyperactive jerk with an inflated ego to a scared man slowly deteriorating into a monster struggling to hold on to what's left of his humanity. Goldblum really makes it work, not just dramatically, but also in the dry humor. The writing is smart, weirdly emotional at times, and like anything before the advent of CGI, the practical effects are outstanding.
That's disgusting.
The only complaints that I have are nitpicks. Well, one nitpick and one legit. Please don't shoot me. There's a scene where Goldblum arm wrestles a dude and breaks his wrist and the bone pops out. Somehow, that doesn't go anywhere. Like, somehow nobody calls the police or anything. And I don't care for how Davis confides in Stathis. This dude is one of the most toxic ex-boyfriend characters I've seen in a long time. Casually entering her home despite not being together, getting obsessive when she starts developing a relationship with Goldblum. What really bothers me is how he's almost randomly a heroic figure toward the end, despite no real arc to get there.
What are you doing here?
I followed you. Psychology today, my ass.
I'm really happy that I saw this. It's compelling, wonderfully acted, pretty gross, but it's a damn fine horror flick with only the most minor of blemishes. If you haven't seen this, I highly recommend it, provided you're not too squeamish around body horror. My honest rating for The Fly, a strong 4 out of 5.
I don't want to! I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid!
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Bridget Fitzgerald uses wolfsbane to slow her transformation into a werewolf and is hunted by another werewolf. After it kills someone, Bridget finds herself in a psychiatric hospital where the people are convinced she's on drugs. Having befriended the loopy but well-meaning young girl Ghost, Bridget tries to keep her transformation in check, attempts to escape from the hospital, all the while still hunted by the other werewolf.
I have been where you are.
You have no idea where I am. If you keep me here, people are gonna die.
It's definitely not as good as the first one. It's got a wonky-ass message to it, way too many missed opportunities, and by God did I hate that ending. But I'd be lying if I said I still didn't enjoy myself. What I adored about the original was how near perfect of an allegory for puberty it was. It was a story about going through those adolescent phases and the dangers of not growing out of them, culminating into one of the more satisfying horror films I've seen in a long time. This one, however, was weird. It's almost saying, hey kids, shooting up will save your life. I know that's a gross simplification and it is supposed to be about addiction and dependency, I guess, but it's framed in a very confusing way. Also, what with the presence of another werewolf stalking Bridget, it's a shame not much is really done with it. One would think it would ravage the people in this hospital, but it ultimately just kills one person. Damn it, I wanted a bloodbath! And I can't deny that I feel like it takes too long for Bridget to actually escape from the hospital and doesn't try hard enough to escape for very long.
Do you turn at the full moon?
You watch too many horror movies.
I'm not allowed to watch horror movies. Or technically to read comics.
And yet, despite those complaints, I can't hate it. It does just too much that actually kind of worked for me. I like how this does feel like a true continuation of Bridget's character from the first movie. She's not just some grumpy wallflower. She's on her own, haunted by her dead sister Ginger, and struggling with holding back her transformation. While in the hospital, she has bouts of anger but is constantly restraining herself from genuinely hurting anyone. Despite the asshole orderly using her wolfsbane as a means to trade for sexual favors, she has her own standards and refuses for as long as she can. No matter where she is, you feel for her, especially when she starts bonding with Ghost, becoming the older sister figure of the story and trying to do right and be protective of the younger girl. Basically, someone get Emily Perkins a back brace because that girl carried this film entirely on her own and wouldn't nearly be as good without her.
Would you like me to throw you at her head?
I can see diehard fans of the original being let down by this. And make no mistake, if you are a fan of the original and haven't seen this one, it might be prudent to not see it. But if you can forgive the shortcomings, I do weirdly recommend it, and I don't think it's a bad time. Except for the ending. I definitely hated that. My honest rating for Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed, a strong 3 out of 5.
I'm stronger.
Oh, really? That's not how I remember you the first 15 years of your life.
It's how I remember the last 15 minutes of yours.
That line alone was worth this movie. Okay, moving on.
Halloween, 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 bats will fly on Halloween.
Jan is a teenage girl who has moved to a quaint country town for the summer with her family and ain't thrilled about it because, yeah, it's that trope. As soon as she moves into their home, she starts hearing whispers coming from the nearby woods that are allegedly from the local legend, the Watcher. Soon, Jan finds herself in the middle of a mystery of hearing that voice and seeing the long-missing daughter of their home's original owner, Angelica Houston.
What did you say to her? Were you singing your rhymes?
I begrudgingly have to say that I actually watched a Lifetime movie, despite spending years making fun of them. And no less. That movie is a remake of the underrated 1980s Disney horror flick, Ya Heard Me Right. And that remake is directed by, of all freaking people, Christians are persecuted, Melissa Joan Hart. What a weird-ass time to be alive.
Whoa, hold on. That joke is like 1996, I think, so...
Yeah, but you know what? So are you, to be honest.
Oh, the movie's not that good. I'm not even making fun of Melissa at this point. It's horribly written and kind of annoying. But I do give credit. It changes just enough so that it justifies its own existence. And those changes are kind of compelling. But as a complete package, it's not great. The first red flag for me was the main character, Jan. Not to harp on Tallulah Evans, she's a competent actress, but Jan is so whiny. In the original, Jan was much more likable. One-dimensional, of course, but you liked her. She was protective of her younger sister, they had a cutesy sibling relationship, it kept you engaged to the story. But here, she's a brat, and kind of mean-spirited. Though that's thankfully not consistent, Jan here is dumb, and that is consistent. She's one of those characters that somehow can't grasp how crazy her situation is and keeps trying to convince everyone around her of these supernatural occurrences, yet no one believes her. It's maddening how many times this happens. On top of that, while Joan Hart is a competent enough director, in this there are spikes of incompetency. Put simply, she made Angelica Houston look like a bad actress.
I'm getting old. I'd do anything to see Karen again.
What kind of bargain, Mrs. Aylwood?
What an accomplishment, if you ask me. Not a good one, nothing you want to brag about, but as far as I'm concerned, achievement unlocked. I mean, as much as I'm ragging on this movie, I can't deny that it does a couple things well. Well enough. In the original film, if I'm not mistaken, the Watcher was some kind of interdimensional being. Honestly, as far as the original is concerned, this is the one detail that never stuck with me. I feel like it would make more sense if it was Karen, but I digress. In this one, they change it up. In the town's past, during the Black Plague, there was a healer dude who, to summarize, saved the town from the Black Plague and no one died. Except him. So now, he's the titular Watcher for complex reasons. Without giving much away, because this version makes him human, the writing gives him motivation that can be comprehended. And it weirdly works. We learn this information around the end of the second act, which is about where the movie starts to pick up, at least a little bit. And despite Joan Hart not always being a great director, one particular scene is absolutely phenomenal. Right after Mrs. Aylwood is mistaken for trying to drown Jen at the pond, Jen defends her by saying that she was actually trying to save her. This is the one scene where I actually started to like Jan. And the acting from Houston is fantastic. There's nuance, subtlety, the emotions are allowed to breathe and really carry the scene. Too bad mere minutes later, it's ruined by Houston overacting.
Mrs. Aylwood wasn't trying to drown me. She was trying to save me.
I don't think I can recommend this one unless you're morbidly curious. And I'm serious, check out the 1980 Disney original. It's criminally underrated, and I actually really like it. This one, it exists. And that's honestly the best thing I can say about it. My honest rating for The Watcher in the Woods, a week 3 out of 5.
I need to find out what happened to Karen. It's the key to knowing what's happening now.
And it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night.
In their first animated movie, Mystery Inc. disbanded after their mystery-solving felt too episodic. In search of a real haunted house, the gang reunites and heads to Moonscar Island in the Louisiana bayou where they're promised real hauntings.
Too much like the good old days. I've got a show to do. I need a real live ghost.
That's an oxymoron, Dad.
And ended this video on a true highlight. I don't care who you are, this is a damn classic. It's got everything. Solid comedy, surprisingly gruesome and frightening imagery that could very well scare kids. One banger of a soundtrack that is criminally not an anthem for Halloween, but most important of all, the heart and soul of Scooby-Doo. For a straight-to-VHS movie, yes, you're old if you know what that is. Go shop for caskets, you fossils! The animation quality really holds up. Holds up a crap ton better than that bafflingly popular live-action movie. Oh yeah, now it's coming back to me. Well, you can keep that nonsense and I'll watch something that would disturb me as an adult. I mean, look at this. Fred rips off a zombie's head. Okay, fine, no blood or protruding bone, but that's still pretty hardcore. But parents, relax your holes. I promise, there's a ton of silly antics and lines to counterbalance the scary stuff. The self-aware humor in the beginning always got me. Scooby and Shaggy's masochistic love of the Chili's and their over-the-top reactions. It's still a lighthearted kids movie, but it has an edge that most kids movies are too cowardly to have nowadays. As for that soundtrack, Sky Cycle, do your thing.
It's terror time again. And you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time.
Snakebite Scruggs is voiced by Mark Hamill. This has truly quite the legendary cast behind it too, including the likes of Tara Strong, Jim Cummings, and oh god, rest in peace Mary Kay Bergman. You have not been forgotten, and I promise Grey Griffin has not let you down. Anyway, I have but one complaint. Spoilers ahead, because I am giving away the ending. Just wait until that label above me kind of goes away. I feel like it's a missed opportunity to not lean into the moral ambiguity of Simone and Lena's actions over the course of 200 years. They were once just peaceful settlers who were raided by Morgan Moonscar and got the native villagers killed. The two ladies became cat creatures and took revenge. I mean, I get it. I don't blame them. But why do they want to be immortal forever? Did transforming drive them into insanity? Is immortality an addiction? Why the mass murder over the centuries? None of Simone and Lena's motivations after exacting revenge against Moonscar makes any real sense outside an incredibly vague curse. This could have been a really mature theme to tackle if it was played with properly, but instead, they're just the villains and we have to live with it.
And those zombies are just the poor souls you drained. They were just trying to warn us so we wouldn't suffer the same fate they did.
I can't stress enough how much I adore this flick. How can I not? Kids' movies these days are so watered down with nothing to challenge them. If you got a Rugrat, here you go. It might scare them, but it's Scooby-Doo. It is the best Scooby-Doo movie. Be good parents. And be good to yourself. And watch it with them. Nurture your own inner child. My honest rating for Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, a strong 4 out of 5.
Who's that? I don't know. Get away.
Thanks for joining me on my first week of Halloween month, y'all. Stay safe, Be well. Hope to see you soon.
Something rancid in the bowl, and we'll take your restless soul. Something breathing in the hole. Heed the man behind the window. Follow the path this leads.